Hello, my name is Jill Temporal and I am a visual artist, a painter based right here in Doncaster. Welcome to my studio. This is my studio, which is in Tick Hill. I'm going to talk to you today as one of the Artist Talks project, which has been sponsored by DMBC, Doncaster Council, and that's their Fight Back Fund. And the hope of this is that all of these art talks, which each of the Doncaster artists are giving, of different art movements through history, will engage with you and excite you and interest you and give you an opportunity to know a little bit more about an art movement or a technique that you didn't know about before. And basically the aim of all this is so that you come and visit the art events and engage with the culture and the really vibrant art scene that we have here in Doncaster. So hopefully with all these videos, when you've enjoyed watching them all, it will give you that nudge when we come out of lockdown to go and do so. So my chosen subject that I'm going to talk to you about today is Pointillism, and it's a French term, Pointillism, and it's a technique that was developed 1884 in France, in Paris, and it's from the Neo-Impressionism movement. So there's quite a few big words here and a lot to take in, so hopefully this talk will guide you through and make things a little clearer to you. So here we go. So who, what, where, when, why? The who was Georges Seurat and Paul Signac, and they were young French artists, and it was just after the Impressionist movement. So Impressionism had started to not dissipate, but it wasn't as prolific as it had been. Monet, Manet, Renoir, they'd all moved away from central Paris, and so these were the new kids on the block, and they was looking for a different way of creating art, still hanging on to some ideals of Impressionism, but it was looking at it in a different way. And they came up with Pointillism, divisionalism, some people call it dot art, but the main aim of this was, instead of creating an image based on the colour and the light and giving an impression of an image, a place, a person, it was about using the science behind colour to create the image. And they use this by using lots of little dots in primary colours to create the secondary colours. So to explain this best, I thought the best way is to go to the dictionary. And the best dictionary you can use is the Dictionary of Art and Artists. This is a very well thumbed version. I have owned since 1996. So if you're an artist, if you're interested in arts and you haven't got one of these, you really need to get one. They're fabulous. So in the dictionary, when you look at Pointillism, in this is the 6th edition, Pointillism isn't in there. It refers you to optical mixtures as the definition. So I'll read you a little short extract because it is quite big text. So according to the colour theory of Neo-Impressionism, it is possible to obtain brighter secondary colours, such as green, by making a series of blobs of both primaries, which in this case of green would be blue and yellow, so that the blue and yellow blobs are very closely intermingled but not actually mixed. So hopefully that gives you an insight into what's going on there. So rather than traditionally mixing the paint on the palette, so mixing your yellow, mixing your blue, your two primaries to get your secondary green, they're letting your eye do the work. They're layering and putting very closely together the two primaries to create the secondary colour. They also use colours to contrast, so they would use the colour wheel and use the opposite ends, so oranges and blues and purples and yellows, to complement and to contrast, to again give the effects. They wouldn't use black, they would use the theory of mixing colour in this way to create the darker tones, only using pure colour and white. A huge part of this was possible because of tubed oil paint, which had not been around that long. That had been a major influence on the Impressionist movement, being able to get out and about. So I think, you know, this use of colour really became the emphasis within the art, rather than necessarily being the subject matter all the time. It really was this theory behind the science of colour. Okay, so we've established that in Neo-Impressionism and Pointillism, the focus was on the science behind the paint, how paint worked, how colour mixed optically, how your eye could be tricked into seeing a colour rather than it physically being mixed in front of you. So I think you need to take yourself back to why this happened in this time. This was a time of real radicalism in the art world, and in life really. It was a time where things were moving really quickly, literally. It was, you know, the car had just been invented, railways had just become really popular and accessible. The electric engine, for example, had just come in. The Orient Express, you know, had just started running, so that the whole world was starting to become smaller in that way. Photography, although it had been around for about 60 years, had just started to use film, so it had become much more accessible again. So at the time, you know, art was really the main visual. Photography was still black and white and still quite crude in a way. So the colours that these guys were using, you know, it must have been pretty mind-blowing. These days we're so used to vibrant colours. We're surrounded with it, with television, billboards, mobile phones. Imagery is literally everywhere we look, but back there it was quite a black and white world really, visually, and you know, we're lucky today to live in different times. So looking here, you can see what they're wearing. You can see, you know, the ladies with the long dresses, the parasols. You know, it's a totally different era. So this was truly radical, really was. And for me, this is why it's such an important art movement, because it really set the path for all the modern art movements that we know today. So from this, you had lot of other artists, Cézanne, Van Gogh. They were all taking parts of the Neo-Impressionism and the Pointillism, the Divisionalism, and using it within their work and developing this theory further, so using the paint to mix, and the dashes and the dots, and it's just evolved into all the modern art movements we know today. So I thought I'd do a little demonstration to show you this. So here I've got some primary yellow and blue, ultramarine blue. So just to demonstrate that the colour pigment is placed in small distinct dots side by side in a pattern. The colour mixing takes place from a suitable distance in the observer's eye as an optical mixture. The paint dots vary in size and closeness together depending on the scale of the painting and also the distance from which they are to be viewed to create the effect. So basically, so I'll carry on adding some dots here. So basically, the closer to the image you are, the dots are more visible, and the further away you are, your eye mixes those into the green. So on close inspection, they're little dots, but stood back, it's a blurred image, I suppose, a blurred colour representation. So here I have some little dots and some big dots to demonstrate this. This is very crude, by the way, and very quickly done. I would normally take a lot more care and time in painting, but this is just for a demonstration purpose. So you can see by overlaying the colour, the green shines through in that way, and then by being very careful not to overlay the colour and leaving a gap between the dots, you still have the same effect. So I would now like to introduce you to some of my artwork. If you've been to any of the Doncaster art fairs, I've been to several myself and exhibited, so you may have seen them there, or at the Doncaster Museum before it closed. I've been involved in some of the open art shows there. So my work, as you can see, is very colourful, very bright, and I show a lot of similarities in the way I use paint with that of the neo-impressionists. I wouldn't say I'm a pointillist painter because I don't solely use that as the way to make the whole image, but I definitely use elements of it within my work. I use colour theory dramatically within my work. It's based upon colour theory, and the pointillist style definitely comes in around foliage more so than any other part. And it's been a subconscious thing, this. I didn't really set out to be a pointillist painter or to be a neo-impressionist. It's just how my work has evolved, and it's now on reflection I look back and I think, wow, yeah, I can see what's gone here. So I've kind of gone full circle from learning about this many years ago at college and at uni, to going down a different path with my art, and now I've come back to this and subconsciously look and think, yeah, I think I would classify myself as a modern day neo-impressionist. So I'm just going to walk down this wall now for you and show you some of my recent collection. So you'll see that the one thing that does tie them all together is the colour. I'm going to come in a little bit closer here. So this is a cherry blossom tree, and if I really come in, hopefully the camera will, no, it's not focusing, so I'll do a still shot of that to show you, but it's all made up of lots of little dots around the foliage, building up the colour theory, placing the yellows and the blues over reds to make the different colours. And as I said, it tends to be around the foliage that I work this in. And I use line as well as dots to create this effect. So, a little introduction there to my work, to the modern landscapes that I create using colour theory and Pointillism and neo-impressionism technique. Doing this video has also got me thinking about other artists out there who are also doing a similar thing. I'm always looking at new artists. In fact, I absolutely adore Instagram because every day I get to see new artists and what they're doing, what they're creating, and it's a fabulous platform out there to engage with artists and modern art. So I got looking, thinking, well, you know, who else is currently doing this type of work? And I found two artists which I particularly like. One is a Spanish artist called, and I hope I say this right because I'm not too good with pronunciation, Pablo Joado Ruiz. Okay, and he does some really nice pointillist type work, really lovely portraits, using colour theory in the way, but he also uses it a little bit like dot art as well, doing black and white versions, and they're fabulous, great portraits. Another artist is Gavin Rain, and he does some spectacular pointillist style work, again of faces, portraits, lots of well-known faces that you would recognise, and it's a really fabulous technique, but he again has developed a little bit further on from Surat. You just have to check his work out, it's fabulous. I'll try and get some pictures on at the end of here to show you. But there's, you know, dot art and this theory behind the whole pointillist movement, neo-impressionism, where modern art can be more than just a traditional painting, has really opened up the modern art scene through all the other movements that hopefully you're going to get to hear about from the other artist talks. So there's some great art out there to go and see, to go and engage with. So come along to some of the next art events that are put on through Doncaster, and the surrounding areas, and engage with art and artists and enjoy. So thank you again to Doncaster Council for sponsoring these videos, and also to Chinwe Russell for making the project possible and being totally fabulous as ever. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for listening to me rant on, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope it's given you an insight into why I love art. Okay, bye.